Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Bonjour, mon ami. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome back to the podcast. I am coming to you from Paris today. It is just such a delight to be here any time of year. Doesn't really matter. Rain, shine, hot, cold. I have zero preference. There's just something about this city that is under my skin. And I've just had obviously too short of a trip with less than a week, but just the perfect fix. Just exactly what my heart needed. Not that it needed much. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are finding ways to say yes to yourself that feel expansive and transport you, whether you're able to get on a plane or whether you're just doing that in your mind. It is such a fun practice. In fact, before I left, I was moving into my 2026 calendar. I have so much glorious travel, so much fun. I'm going to be here so many times. I'm also going to be in Edinburgh. I'm going to be in the Southern Caribbean. I'm going to be in Barcelona and Portugal and Morocco this year. It's so fun. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to all these places. I have a day in so many fabulous cities with not a lot on my calendar. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we got together? So let's have a space to dream 1 day retreat, a workshop, extended workshop in a fabulous city that I will be in 2026. So your choices are London, Edinburgh, Paris, Versailles, Panama, Colombia. Where else am I going to be? Morocco, Barcelona, Lisbon, Los Angeles, New York. Okay, I think that's it off the top of my head. But all of those cities and those dates are listed over on the website. So if you are also going to be there and you want to hold glorious, expansive space for yourself and for that dream in your heart, I would love to guide that time with and for you. So of course, you have the option to do a Space to Dream solo retreat at the Phineas Wright House. But if you would like a stamp in your passport while you give yourself space to dream, then I invite you to globetrot with me or meet me somewhere fabulous, and we will get some water and sunshine on those beautiful dreams that are growing in your heart. It's so fun. It's a new year. We get to do these big, bold, fabulous things, and doing it together multiplies the joy and the belief and the possibility and every element of yes. I am also very delighted to share a beautiful conversation that I had with today's guests. We have Maya Payne Smart. She is an early literacy advocate, a parent educator, and the author of Reading for Our Lives: The Urgency of Early Literacy and the Action Plan to Help Your Child. She's affiliated faculty at Marquette University and holds degrees from Harvard and Northwestern. Her website features weekly book picks, playful learning ideas, and free tools to help parents grow as their children's first teachers and forever champions. Maya is brilliant and gifted and on such a beautiful mission. You're going to love all the work that she's up to. And I know you're definitely going to enjoy this conversation with the magnetic Maya Smart. Maya, I am so delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. And I would love to just start by knowing, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
This season, I'm saying yes to myself by just breathing and pausing and
Mm.
thinking and contemplating before I respond to others. So
Oh my
saying
gosh.
yes to myself is creating this space to consciously decide. I had a birthday recently and I picked my word for that year to be deliberate. So
Oh my gosh.
that's my
I
word. I'm being
love
deliberate in all things.
Oh, I love every single thing about that. And I love that you choose a word on your birthday instead of at the beginning of the year. And this is going to air at the beginning of the year. So that is certainly on our minds. I host a word of the year workshop every year
Oh,
too, to invite people into this practice. And something that I started mid 2025 in my it was a deliberate choice of creating a word for a month. So July was all about foundations. I was getting ready to spend several weeks in France and knew also that it was going to be a big deal. My very long divorce process was completing while I was in France. And I knew that I was going to come back a different woman than I was when I left. And I wanted to attend to all the piles, whether they were weeds or QuickBooks or ironing or emails that needed to be responded to. I wanted to come back to a clean slate. So foundations was my word for July. And then August was freed. Oh, no. Yes, freedom, because I wanted to practice freedom before I actually was. And then September was momentum. And, so just kept building from there. And I love this practice that you have of doing it at your birthday. What's your process for determining what your word is going to be?
some of it is just inspired by what I'm reading. I read a lot. Some
Yeah.
people say create before you consume, but I think I'm just
Mm,
or I'm a reader.
yeah.
And so a lot of the words that were coming to me through different things I was reading were words like receptivity and
Mm,
presence and all these other
yeah.
words. But I thought that for me, it was important for me to choose. And so deliberate felt like in all things, just taking the time to weigh in with yourself, even if you are consuming all these things, reading what other people are saying or hearing things and kind of observing your environment. Sometimes we can be a little reactive. So
Yes.
even though I enjoy taking things in, I wanted to have that breath, that pause, and, this is my choice. This is what I'm doing. This is my word. Like we get to choose and even choosing when to
Gosh.
choose your word.
Exactly. Oh my, and that you can change your word if you wish, right? We get to course correct continuously. But I love the practice that's associated even with the word you chose and this pause, this sacred pause of I'm practicing presence, like you mentioned, and really answering this request in a way that feels right and true and in alignment for me in this moment. And I'm not even going to answer this request until a certain amount of time has passed.
Yes, I find that often even with little things like email.
Mhm.
So there's this flood of requests and things coming at you, and everything feels like an opportunity. Everything feels at least like it's worthy of a response, but all of it isn't. It's like
Right.
if it was like if there were people just showing up at our door and they were strangers and we didn't know them and they were asking things of us.
I appreciate the spin. How is this practice working out? Because I get hundreds of emails every day for people that want to be on the podcast. And I'm a reader. Like I read everyone's email, and the only ones that I stop reading is when I realize that it's a man. I'm like, whatever, dude. I don't interview men. Thank you. You do not need any help having your voice amplified.
Right.
50-year-old white guy. Thank you.
This is not the space for you.
Right. And it's like, I love men. Men are great, fabulous, whatever. But those are the easy ones not to respond to. But I love this.
I want to think of myself as someone who is responsive. Like I don't want to leave
Yes.
people hanging. I want to get back in a timely fashion, but sometimes other things are more important. So it's also about prioritizing. And what I've been thinking a lot about now is like, how can I make things easier for myself? And so some of it is like just as boring as writing templates for certain things, because there are patterns in the things that people are asking of you. And
Yes.
like, do I have to handcraft this beautiful, personalized response to everything? Or can there be parts of this that I wrote beautifully the last time someone asked me that? So I'm just
Yes.
customizing a sentence and like just kind of being okay with that. That
Right.
sometimes when we're trying to handcraft everything, we're kind of killing ourselves.
Hmm. Exactly. No, I really appreciate this. And I know we're going to talk about all the beautiful things about your book. And I think that this is so important as well, because when we're watching other people do things, we create a narrative about that. And, oh, whatever, their business is doing amazing, or their book has sold this many copies, or their podcast is ranked all this, and they have a huge team. And, whatever, there's this comparison, even when you don't want to, or you're not trying to lobby for your limitations, but we can tend to think that everybody has it easier than we do, or is doing it better than we are, or whatever. That just really being gracious to ourselves, and kind, and even the same gift that we're offering to the person that we're going to write back, we can offer that to ourselves.
Absolutely. And I love podcasts, so I'm happy to be on your podcast, but I
Thank you.
listen to a lot of podcasts that encourage like a extreme level of like just industry and hustle and getting things done,
Yeah.
like all the things. And I can intellectually like agree that some of the things I want to move forward in the world would move faster if I worked harder.
Hmm.
But I
Right.
also, by being deliberate, I can say, yes, I agree with that. And I'm choosing to not give
Exactly.
110% on that thing right now because in this
Right.
season, I want to be there for my daughter. I want to, drive
Yes.
her to soccer. I want to do this and the other thing. Like
Yeah.
we can have space, we can imagine, we can feel the confidence and faith that we'll have more years to do the things we want to do. So we don't have to do everything this minute. So being deliberate,
Right.
saying yes to this thing, but maybe yes in a future season.
Right. And I think that alignment is what attracts the opportunities that are meant for us, and grow and expand the reach and the message and the contribution that we're about in a more organic and authentic way that really lands.
Sometimes we don't attend to how we feel about things,
Yeah.
about opportunities. So part of being deliberate also is like, how does this feel to me?
Hmm. Which is such an appropriate, reliable gauge. And my conditioning says, oh, you can't trust your emotions. Like you need to do the things that this mentor is saying, or the 5 steps to grow your business overnight, whatever those things are. but really it is an energetic exchange, and that is what's felt. And those are the opportunities that open us up to what is next for us in ways that we could not have imagined.
Absolutely. Because oftentimes when we're chasing things, it's because we think they'll make us feel a certain way.
Right.
We can be deliberate in feeling that way now.
Exactly.
Right.
You are in the right room, Queen. That is what we all believe, and we all know that we are the deliberate creators of our experience, and how we feel is our gauge of if this is right for me right now, or if it's contrast and I need to course correct. And sometimes the feeling better is to completely get off the subject of what is making me nervous. And I think I can sometimes think, ooh, that's irresponsible. If I'm worried about the bank balance, then I need to focus on how to make more money, when actually that's rooted in lack of money rather than an influx of money, and going out to the flower field or enjoying my beautiful surroundings at my home or doing something fun with my daughter puts me in a joyful place that is the energetic, the vibrational match of freedom and security and joy and choice, which is what I'm hoping the money will achieve.
Yeah, it's so much better to live in that creative space, to live like in imagination and sort of just observing what is. Sometimes when I'm feeling like I'm inching toward worry about something, I just tell myself, like, pay it no mind.
That's right.
Like nothing good comes of like worrying and anxiety. Like I've never gotten a good result from being anxious.
Right. You get the thing that you're worried about just gets bigger.
It's like you feel terrible. If you use that as like your barometer, like if I'm feeling terrible, then I probably should focus on doing whatever feels better.
That's right. It's so good. It's so good. And I love that that is your mindset and message as well, because more people need to hear that you have the direction, you have the roadmap inside of you. And we also don't have to figure out 14 steps ahead, just what feels like the next logical step, what feels good. And, sometimes it is doing something on the business, in the business, and sometimes it is walking your dog.
Like prior to this, I was like, I had this list of things that I thought I might do. Now I treat my to-do list as like a menu.
I love that.
These are options. It's not because I would always have so many things still left
Yes.
undone at the end of the day. And it's sort of this vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the deliberate choice. I put the to-do list on my calendar kind of in little time blocks. Like think, oh, I may do this for 30 minutes or this for 45 minutes, because that visual of seeing you only have so many hours in the day keeps the list realistic.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
But then if I, in that moment, choose to do something else, like I was like, I really want to just sit here and drink a glass of water,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And then I just slid those things that I could have done during that time slot later in the day. And so it's just, for me, just that visual of the calendar blocks. And I've just been doing this the last couple of weeks. It's like, this is how you do a to-do list. Anything else is just mission impossible.
Right, right. And kind of a mean girl in the corner that's just highlighting what I did not do today instead of what needs to be done. I love that. And I've heard before of using your calendar for your to-do list, but I love this concept of, because I was just made it a list of things, but that I look at on my calendar. I don't think that's what they meant. But putting an appropriate amount of time and will also help me see, oh, I don't know what I'm thinking, that creating these whatever I'm doing only takes an hour. It always takes
Right.
3. And then, if I get distracted or something else is calling me or whatever, I think that's such a great way to stay focused and deliberate, but also this practice of, kind of asking, these are all the things I need to do. What is my role in this list today? And then delegating the rest of the list to God, to the universe. Like, what needs to happen. I live in an antique house, and last night I was wakened to not a lovely sound that was kind of like this
Oh no.
scratching, which is yucky. I don't like to think that there's something scratching. That is not a part of my dreamy barn life, but it is my dreamy barn life. And I'm like, okay, that needs to be attended to.
Right.
And I'm going to focus on the solution. I'm not going to focus on what could be scratching and how many friends are with them and all of that. But there are things that need our attention, and then there are things that sometimes we're just adding that maybe we need to outsource, maybe we need to get more support around those things as well.
Someone, and I can't remember where I got these three questions from, but I used to have them on a post-it note on my desk. And they were like, does this need to be done? Because sometimes we don't pause and even consider, like, what happens if no one does this? Like, is it the end of the world? So like, does this need to be done? Does it need to be done by me? Does it need to be done by me now?
Oh, that's so good. Okay, say those again because everyone's going to write this down.
Does it need to be done? Does it need to be done by me? Does it need to be done by me now?
Oh
And
my
very few
gosh.
things meet that criteria. I'll give you an
Right.
example from my life. I do a lot of speaking at events for like parents or educators or any family facing professionals. And so somewhere along the way, I had gotten it in my mind that after each speaking event, I needed to do an after action report where
Oh,
I would like write down how many people were there and how the room was set up and what went well and what could be improved. And it was this long thing, never to be read by anyone else, but for me, just a process for me to go through. And then one day I was like, do I really need to do all of that for every event? Or do I just need to think about what went well in this event that I would like to do in a future event? So maybe I should just be keeping one document of like best practices for workshops like this, for,
right.
things to request, or, just like what is the big thing from this that needs to never happen again or needs to happen every time in the future. So maybe I don't
Right.
need this whole elaborate report for myself that just sits in storage, never to be reviewed again.
Oh my gosh. I love this beautiful practice that you have, not only setting a word on your birthday and setting an intention, but in these practices that are repeated but aren't the same. For me, my trips to France, we do a lot of the same things and we're in the same cities, but they're never the same because the women that are joining me are different. So there are different nuances, but it's this permission to make a change, to make an improvement without holding ourselves hostage to some practice that's no longer in service.
Exactly. So I'm really enjoying this new year, my personal new year following
Right.
my birthday, and just I don't know, it's a good energy, and I have to believe that other people pick up on that as well.
I think it's the only thing that other people pick up on.
That because I'm no longer making all this work for myself,
Right.
I'm a little lighter, and that shows up,
Right.
smile to a stranger in the hallway, or who knows.
Right. And nobody's knocking on your door saying, where's that report?
Right.
Because you were her. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's amazing. Freedom is such a beautiful sensation. And when we're the ones that freed ourselves, I mean, we are the only ones who can free ourselves, but when we make that decision, like, oh my gosh, I've been talking about this cage I'm in the whole time, and the door is open
Right.
and I could see. from my perch in the cage, that the door is open, what would it look like to walk out of here? Like it's so great. And then you kind of think like, oh, well, cue the glitter and the balloon drop because I just walked out of the cage. And again, like there's nobody was keeping you in there. So nobody's really throwing a party because you came out except for you.
You, right.
Right. And your decision to not go back in there.
It's all just this awareness. I feel like somehow we lose the imagination. We just get into routines and like ways,
Right.
and we're kind of putting this fence around ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And I think for me, the pattern interrupt is what helps me reevaluate what practices are serving me, what is no longer working. I'm a mom and she's 11, and I didn't become a mom until I was 48. She was 2 years old. We adopted her from China. And I was already incredibly set in my practices. And also, any new things I implement, it goes into a schedule and I do things the same way every time. And I know I've said this on the podcast before, but there are times when she's getting ready in her room and I go in there to talk to her and I instinctively get down on the floor in front of her and start helping her put her pants on. Like she does not need my help, but this has been like, oh, this is what I do in this place.
In calm
So,
mode.
right, exactly. So just these opportunities when I come back from a trip, because travel is such a fabulous pattern interrupt for me, I get to decide like what does re-entry look like as the woman that I just became on the other side of that trip? What does re-entry look like? What does fall look like as the woman that I am now? What does winter look like? I grew up in Southern California where seasons were more of a decision you made than something that was actually changing, right? But now in Massachusetts, it time goes faster here. So I'm feeling like I'm getting these opportunities to reevaluate. Do I want to winter the way that I've always wintered? Do I want to spring the way that I've always experienced spring here, and the permission to change?
I love that you use the word pattern interrupt because I just hadn't thought of it that way. I've been now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for 4 years, so we definitely
Okay.
have seasons, a lot of winter.
Yeah.
But it's feeling it's fall, or it's winter.
Right.
You can feel those changes. But now
Yes.
that you've said this, I know that I can use those seasonal changes as an opportunity to rethink who I am in that season. And you can
Right.
anything can be your season. Like you get to pick that too. You can wait for the official first day of fall or the official first day of winter or whatever it may be, or you can just look up and say it's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday and
Right.
I want to be different going forward in this way.
Yes, because of something I just read or something I just heard or something. It's fascinating that mentioning the actual seasons, because I also know there are many seasons in a woman's life, which is why my leading question is how are you saying yes to yourself in this season? It doesn't necessarily mean at the beginning of the year we're in this, it's just in all the elements that are making up your personal experience right now, what that is the season that you're in, and we get these beautiful invitations
Yes,
to be deliberate.
that's even better than pattern interrupt. Beautiful
It's a
invitations.
beautiful invitation. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. So I love all of these beautiful invitations that you offer to people in your speaking engagements as you are sharing this gorgeous, vital message. Can you please tell us about the book? Tell us about what you're passionate about and how that's really shifted through your time doing this work.
When my daughter was maybe 1 or 2, we were living in Richmond, Virginia at the time, and I just came across a bunch of news articles that were describing reading achievement disparities among different categories
Mm,
of kids. So by race or by socioeconomic status or all these different things. And it just really didn't sit well with me. And I said, well, what contributes to the differences? It's not the fact that this kid has a lower household income or that this kid is Black or whatever the different divisions were. I was like, it's not the kids, it's something adults
right.
are doing. So it's difference in what their parents are doing or the schools they have access to or the books or whatever the things are. So I just got, in that season as a new mother, got really interested in just getting to the bottom of, well, what does it take to set up a child to be successful in school? So motherhood that season really sparked this whole
Yeah.
career change for me. Previously, I'd been a journalist and I wrote about small businesses, did some education reporting, but just this personal question of what I needed to do for my daughter tipped into
Mm,
this broader mission to give every parent access to that information. They're very simple things parents can do to build their little ones' language and literacy skills from birth. And so not waiting till the school years.
that's amazing. Okay. Give us all the goods. Tell us how to do it, please.
So the book is called Reading for Our Lives: The Urgency of Early Literacy and the Action Plan to Help Your Child. And so with the little babies, even in utero, they can hear mom's voice, right? So
Yeah.
just in the beginning, talking and giving them exposure just to the sounds of the language. And then when you have this little newborn that's not obviously responding to you in words yet, just talking and introducing the words and the information and being responsive to their coos and babbles and cries. And so research really shows that it's the back and forth conversational exchanges that build so much of the brain foundation kids need for language and vocabulary and then literacy down the road. So with babies, just talk more than you think you need to.
Right.
When they're not responding, pretend as if you know what those babbles are saying and keep the
Yes.
conversation going. And then as kids get older and they're 2 or 3, starting to directly bring their attention to print. Because
Mm,
tracking studies show when you're reading picture books to them, they're looking at the pictures. And who wouldn't? Because all these books have these amazing illustrations and
right.
full and interesting. And so many little ones don't even know that the story is coming from the print, from the letters.
Oh,
So little
sure.
simple things like just dragging your finger along the text, even just to bring their attention to it, is important. And they'll learn, that text flows from left to right or from the top of the page and down, and then pointing out letters on graphic t-shirts or signs or the cereal box
Yeah.
and just talking about those lines, dots, and curves that make up the letters is so powerful. And parents don't know to do that. I didn't do that with my daughter. I wrote this book. She was older by the time I figured
Right.
all these things out. And I was like, oh, it would have been, so much easier for her if I had said, this is the letter. Her name is Zora. This is the letter Z. Z says, and it's
Right.
3 lines. I taught her how to write her name, but it didn't occur to me that she didn't know that those symbols represented specific sounds.
For sure. That's amazing. Right. Of course she didn't know because we don't think at that level of information because it's practiced and habitual,
Right.
which is everything that we're doing and everything that we spent the first half of this podcast talking about. It's that pattern interrupt. It's getting out of what is just practiced and habitual to really see this is what this means. This is what happens when you take 3 lines and you put them in this shape, they create something and it has a sound and it has a meaning and it's your name. I mean, it's so beautiful.
But we didn't, at least I didn't think to do that at that point. So a lot of my work is just telling people this is this really simple, easy thing you can do with your kids in the course of everyday life. It doesn't take any
Right.
extra time. You don't have to get a special educational app or like a whole curriculum, literally just by bringing their attention to these letters and talking about them for 10, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. It's
Wow.
building powerful knowledge for them that will make their road to reading easier. When you talk about things that are habitual, there is this message that we should read to kids every night, bedtime stories. It's accepted. It's in public awareness campaigns, and
Right.
everyone knows that you should read to your child, but we don't think about exactly what they're getting out of us reading to them.
Mm,
And many kids will struggle to learn to read, and the parents will say, "But I read to them every night." Well, them reading independently, them reading for themselves is different than hearing you read. When we
right.
think about learning to read, it's learning to recognize in written language things they would understand if you spoke them to them. So when you're reading aloud, you're giving them vocabulary and you're introducing them to these amazing worlds and stories. But if you're not bringing their attention to print, if you haven't talked about those letters and the sounds they represent, they're not making those connections just by listening to you read. So by all,
Right.
I'm not saying don't read to your child. Continue to read to your child and know that you're building their vocabulary and giving them all these wonderful gifts and deepening the relationship with you. And talk about letters and their
Right.
sounds and their shapes.
Oh my gosh. It's so good. I mean, and I like when I appreciate when it's easy, when it's not, oh, if you just had 3 extra hours in your day as a new mom, you could prepare your child for kindergarten. Like, oh my gosh, I am just doing the best I can with the tools I have. But this is really helpful and seemingly easy once you know that that's what you should be doing.
Right. Another thing I always share with parents is to start to try to bring kids' attention to the sounds within words, because we forget when we're talking to them, they're understanding the words and they're grasping the meaning. There's no reason for them to pay attention to the details of the sounds within words. But in order to read, again, you have to discern the different sounds. You have to hear it in order to map it to the letter. So you have to know that cat has k, at, right? So we can bring kids' attention to those sounds through wordplay. So, with rhyming or, cat, mat, pat, and they start to hear those different initial sounds, or your tongue twisters, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You're really emphasizing that P sound, and it can be playful and it can be fun. And you don't have to have a book in hand to play with words, but getting kids to hear those syllables, hear the initial sounds, ending sounds, and eventually hear all those sounds in between is critical. You can't read without it. And
Right.
many kids who struggle to read, it's a phonological processing issue.
Mm,
And so if you do these things, sing the songs, do the clapping, all that stuff when they're little, it's so much easy. Many kids then are ready to take off when they start to blend and segment and try to sound out and spell words. But when kids get older and continue to struggle, then if you have done those things when they were younger, then there is a challenge or a developmental issue or something that needs further assessment and a investigation. But many kids don't have processing issues. No one did the nursery rhymes. No one played with
mm.
words. No one. So simple things we can do when they're little makes it so much easier.
Again, a beautiful invitation to have this access, but like you didn't have the access to the book you wrote until your daughter was older and you started doing this research. So, how are you helping parents who are navigating a child or grandchild that's having some difficulty reading, but they don't really know where to start?
Yeah. So I always tell people I introduce a framework called GPS. I like acronyms. So,
Yes.
so the G is just for guidance. I recommend that all parents, and again, wasn't something I did until my daughter was older, but actually look at your state's grade level standards. Like look in
Mm,
the English language arts standards and see what your state thinks kids should know or do in that grade level. Or if they're younger, you can look at your state's early learning standards and you'll see things like, are they able to segment sounds, or, do they know 18, can they recognize 18 uppercase letters, or whatever the things are? Just give
sure.
yourself some idea of what kids on average are, knowing and doing. And then I always encourage parents to write down their personal observations and reflections, their feelings about
Mm,
where their child is with whatever you're concerned about. Maybe it's their speech or motor development issue or whatever. And then the S is for a specialist. So talking to your
yeah.
pediatrician as well, child visits, or your teacher, or even a librarian, and getting access to the next thing, the next person to talk to. And just
Mm,
those guidelines in mind, I think it teaches you some of the vocabulary. It just gives you a different point of departure for conversations. So I always encourage parents, sometimes we're anxious and we don't need to be, because the thing that we think this child should be doing really is it's something a year or two away. And we can get
mm,
a sense of that by reading these guidelines. Other cases, more often though, I think when a parent has a concern, they should investigate it, even if others don't, that pediatrician may not agree with you, or, get this
right.
and follow up.
Right. Or if your pediatrician is just, I mean, I don't want to say mean things about my pediatrician, but like I said, I didn't become a mom till I was in my late 40s and I only have one child. So I don't have anything to compare it to. And everyone in my age bracket, like their kids are in college. So it was just different. And she's a lovely human, but she doesn't give me any information. Like she just says, okay, like she's this tall, she weighs this much, her ears look good. Do you have any questions? I'm like, well, probably, but I don't know. I mean, when she did do the eye test, Amelia was in kindergarten and she was slowly saying the letters. And so there was some concern until I realized this was in a very short amount of time, like 5 minutes. She was trying to read the eye chart.
Like she was expecting words.
She was expecting words. So she was like, I don't, Iwanka? Like she was trying to read it. So then we realized, oh, okay, let's do that again. And she was like, IWAKT. So that was all fine. But I feel like my daughter is informing what these milestones should be more so than the person I'm kind of counting on to tell me what I need to know. So, I think I appreciate your work because it helps create opportunities for advocacy for our kids and not in blaming somebody from not doing a job differently than what our expectation is, but it's also giving us tools to see how can we bridge this gap to find out if there even is one.
Right. Absolutely. I feel like it's so helpful to have some idea of what should be happening with your child at that particular age or stage. And then to your point, be deliberate, be proactive, and asking the questions. Be confident enough to ask your questions as well.
Right. And then how do you know what questions you should even be asking? So that just based on looking at what the guidelines say, and then because obviously in early child development and with reading, it's easier to gauge than some of the boxes that have to be checked in the older grades. I think those are up for debate a little bit more than okay, as long as you can read what this thing is that they want you to do, and then we decide collectively we're not available for that or we are available for that, like that's a totally different
I think you're right with
situation.
the how we look at these guidelines and things when they're little. Like if you look at the CDC's milestones, and they even have videos so you can look and see the 6-month old doing the thing. When we get into educational, like the grade level standards I mentioned earlier, those are more, I would say, aspirational, because we
Mm,
know from the data on the horrible reading achievement results that we have in this country that most kids aren't meeting those grade level expectations.
right.
Unfortunately, the latest National Assessment of Educational Progress report that they did on 12th graders said that like a third of the 12th graders that they assessed were below proficient in reading. So that's horrible. So, so the standards that you'll read about, let's say for first grade, let's say fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, are higher than where most kids on average are performing. So it's important to know that, and then also to advocate for your child and try to get them in the best position they can be in.
Yes. So obviously, your book is perfect for a baby shower gift with something they actually registered for. Because let's be have good manners. But obviously, it's great to have that information at the very beginning. But how long in their experience does your work span? So if I have a fifth grader and they're struggling, is is the book helpful in that scenario as well?
I would say that it's helpful for giving you a sense of what they may be missing.
Mm,
So, like every reader, regardless of the age that they become skilled and fluent, there are certain things you have to get. Like you have to have a base of vocabulary and background
mhm.
knowledge to make sense of the words that you read, because it's not just about being able to sound them out. Like you
Sure.
have to have that base level of alphabetic knowledge. And you'd be surprised. There are some kids who can't name all the letters or can't tell you what
Mm,
sounds those letters make. So even if you have the fifth grader, I think it's helpful to try to get a feel for what they may have missed, and
mhm.
also give you some insights into their, if you have them write something, what their spelling mistakes can tell you about what they understand about how letters and sounds map. So I do think it's help from that perspective. It won't
Sure.
teach you how to read, but I
Right.
think it will give you some of the context and vocabulary
Yes.
to ask sharper questions of
Mm,
teachers and schools. I would say that if you have a fifth grader who's really struggling, to try to find a way for them to get a real assessment, because there are a number of reasons
sure.
for kids struggle. Sometimes it's because they just haven't been taught. And so then high dosage tutoring is the
Hmm.
that. But sometimes they may have a phonological processing disorder that's preventing them from discerning those sounds and then mapping them to the letters. There could be all sorts of more
Sure.
complex issues. And so get them assessed. The older they get, the harder it is to get help. When they're in middle school or when they're in high school, there are fewer and fewer, if anyone, in the building who can teach them to read. So don't
Right.
wait. Don't wait.
Don't wait. No, I appreciate that. And it's not my experience. I just am trying to think of who's listening and where in that process they are. I think, with everything, the best time to start is a year ago, and the second best time to start is
Yeah.
right now.
And even as I wrote the book, there were things I wish
For sure.
I had done. I discovered I wish I'd done for my daughter. Like I just told you earlier about just describing the letters, knowing
Right.
that she wasn't looking at the words when I was reading the books, knowing that even though I had
Right.
taught her to write her name, she didn't know.
That was the same thing as what you were reading.
So
Right.
all of those. So even as a person who wrote the book, I can empathize with people who think, oh, I should have done that when they were 2 years old or 3 years old. But we know better and we do better.
That's right. And we're all doing the best we can.
And
Just
I
so
think it's
good.
particularly important with all of the technology
Yes.
available with, AI or people talking into their phones and it writing their essays and all of these things. But we don't want to allow our kids to not learn to read and write.
Exactly. And they're different. They're different. So Amelia, my daughter, is a prolific reader, and she's in a school. She goes to a private school that has a very non-traditional educational model. So to supplement that, her dad requires her to read a book every month and write a report on it. And what I was finding in helping her make sure that she does this thing that makes him happy, which that's a whole nother show, um, is that she was writing like she speaks, not writing like what she just read, and using models of what you just read. He had some question prompts that she was answering, and she would just say, yes, they did. Like, oh no, you're not answering a question the way you do verbally. You do it different in written, and reading is what actually teaches you how to write.
And then the other element of it is editing. So reading what you've written and improving it. There are some good books related to writing, ones by Natalie Wexler. I think it's called The Writing Revolution.
Mm.
And then there's a newer book by Julie Bogart that is focused on writing, particularly for kids who don't enjoy
Oh, that's fantastic.
it.
Well, maybe you can send those over to me and we'll link those in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that would be great. But yes, it's so important. I think that the most important skill kids need to get in elementary school is reading. As parents, no one cares more than you do about your individual child. So
Right.
it's on us to talk to them, to build the vocabulary and knowledge and those brain connections when they're little, and to read with them to expand their, again, vocabulary, background knowledge
Yes.
even more, to teach them directly what we can about writing and print and paying attention to written language. And then we also have to connect them to resources, advocate for them.
Right. And it's how they learn about other cultures and about what's happening in the world and about storytelling and about experience and how to articulate your experience. You learn all of that by immersing yourself in other people's stories, and you can only do that if you can read.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's such big work. How are you staying motivated and ahead of the curve rather than overwhelmed by what some of the statistics say?
It's interesting that you asked that. I had an event prior to the paperback edition of the book coming out, and I was talking about like the horrible reading achievement levels in Milwaukee, and there were community leaders and different educators and people in the audience. And I was looking over at my husband, and he just looked like he had just like the saddest look on his face. And I was like, what is going on with him? And I talked to him later, and he was like, he's just like, I don't know how you work in this like depressing field. Like he was like so moved by those horrible statistics. And I was like, I know it's bad and I cite the statistics, but I think my focus for the most part is not on that. Like
That's right.
what we were saying, like to pay it no mind. So
That's
I think
right.
my day to day, it's very solution oriented, and it's very much like, how can I share what I know with the person in front of me? So today I'm talking to you and you have your audience. So all of the people who listen will benefit and learn these little simple things they can do with young kids that make a big difference. And so I think all the systemic issues are still going to be solved by individual people knowing
Mhm.
what it takes to nurture and teach a reader. So I do every Monday, I have a new blog post in the resources section of my website, and it might be a list of seasonal kids' books recommendations or family literacy activities that you can do easily and affordably. So I have the blog post Monday. I have a newsletter every Sunday morning. I have a monthly newsletter on the first Thursdays. And so I have kind of like these cadences that are manageable for me.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I tend to focus more on evergreen content because learning to read, it's not changing.
Right.
It's not trendy. Like there's not a lot new.
Yes.
So I try to write things I think that can live and be helpful to people for a long period of time. And so instead of like doing a new list of like 7 Halloween books or whatever, I'll just
Right.
update my existing one if I come across something I want to add. And then the speaking, I tend to speak to parents about how to give their child a smart start, and would go over some of the same things we talked about alphabetic knowledge and sound awareness and building vocabulary through reading books. But then I also talk to educators and librarians who work with parents so they can share the book with the people they work with and remind them of these key things to do, because we all need reminders. So
Right.
how I keep it manageable.
Oh, it's beautiful, big work. And I'm so happy to be connected with you and expand the reach a little more. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get their hands on the book, and anything else you want them to know.
Yeah, so the book title again is Reading for Our Lives, The Urgency of Early Literacy and the Action Plan to Help Your Child. And it's available from all the major online retailers. You can also request it from your local independent bookseller or Barnes and Noble or wherever you get their books, and that helps put it on the radar for them as well. Maybe they'll stock it. Additionally, my website is just my name, Maya Smart, MAYASMART.com. And so there's always fresh content every week in that resources section. You can join the newsletter if you would like me in your inbox. And on Instagram, I'm Maya Smarty with a Y.
Oh, cute. Perfect. Well, we will link everything down in the show notes, but thank you so much, Maya. I have loved this conversation.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.